All right, I'm just gonna stop calling games winnable. I think that that's probably the move for the rest of the year. We're gonna implement that from here on out. No more games are winnable because we lose all of them. Okay, 0 for 6 on winnable games this season, according to Locked On Tigers. Let's talk about this series all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, April 24th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Baseball GM. If you've ever dreamed of being an MLB GM and managing your favorite baseball franchise, this game is for you. Download the game, visit ultimatebaseballgm.com, or look it up in the App Store. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code LOCKEDON in all caps in the game. Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a swell weekend. If you did, it wasn't because of your Detroit Tigers, but we're about 6 years into this thing. Not too many weekends that you have had in the last 6 years that ended up being good were because of your favorite baseball team, unfortunately. But a lot of observations I had this weekend. A lot. Tigers get swept by the Orioles, in case you are tuning in and were unaware. They lost 2-1, 5-1, and 2-1 in the 10th inning. So yeah, I like I said in the cold open, I'm gonna stop calling games winnable. I think I said that after the Boston series too. Was that a 4-game series? No, we didn't play on Friday. So yeah, a lot of losses after me saying there's winnable games. So we'll probably stop doing that for the foreseeable future, like for real this time. Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna go into each individual game because that seems stupid after a sweep. Like we lost every game. You're aware of that. I'm aware of that. I don't think we need to go in depth on each individual game, like chronologically, like segment one Friday, segment two Saturday. I think I did that a lot last year, and I kind of want to get away from that. Obviously, on a Tuesday when we only have one game to talk about, we'll do it. But for weekend series, I kind of want to do a like let's talk about all the biggest storylines and observations from the weekend, especially when it's a sweep. If we took one of these, maybe we talk about the game we won in itself and then kind of clump the two losses together. But like we lost all three games and we lost all three in extremely similar fashion. So I feel like it's kind of better flow and just better for you as a listener if I just kind of lay out all of the feelings and like observations I had, whether it's individual players, whether it's positional groups or whatever. I think that is a better show for a Monday edition. Okay, again, especially after a sweep. So that's what we're going to do. First off, before the weekend started, Trey Winginter placed on the 15-day DL. Will Vest recalled. We talked about, man, my hood is bothering. If you're watching on YouTube, I've just been messing with my hood for the first 4 minutes of the show. I apologize. Goodness. On Friday, we talked about, like possible players to get called up and whatnot. We talked about how the bullpen was just kind of a bleep show. And I had mentioned that Will Vest would not be my first call. He would be probably second or third just because he didn't look good in the spring and he hasn't looked good in Toledo, but he was the 27th man for the doubleheader in Cleveland last week. And clearly he's still the first call for them as he was recalled and he pitched a fine outing. He had two innings, I think. No, one. Regardless, he didn't give up a run in his first outing of the year with the team, so good for him. Hopefully, we can kind of get back to like first half 2022 Will Vest this season. Let's talk about some individuals that stood out to me this weekend. First, Spencer Torkelson was a big talking point throughout the fan base just because of like insane inconsistency, and a lot of people have already brought this up, but it really is, to me, an inconsistent approach from like game to game or series to series. Like last year, there was a lot of worries that, about like everything, but he had an inability to hit pretty much anything in the strike zone. Like if you threw a fastball over 94 miles an hour, you could put it right down the middle and he wasn't hitting it, right? So this year, he's turning on inside pitches. He is pulling the ball and hitting it hard. He is like he is hitting, though, like we saw a hanging curveball for a double last week. Like he is turning on pitches now, and you can't just throw him 97 down the middle, 3 times and watch him foul it off late 2 times, then swing and miss a third time. Like he's at least showing that, and he loves inside pitches this year, which wasn't a thing last year because he literally couldn't catch up to them. This year, we're seeing more bat speed, like swing path, whatever you want to call it, or I guess all of the above is the better phrase there, is great. But now this year, it's just like the approach seems all over the place. Like he's in the 70th percentile in average exit velo, like 71st in hard hit rate, or vice versa, something like that. Like barrel rate is about 70th percentile as well. Like he's not striking out a ton, but like for the first few weeks, he just didn't draw any walks. Last year, that was the only thing he could do. He was walking at an above league average clip despite not being able to hit the baseball. Like, so, and then again, like this year, that just like flips. He still wasn't really getting results, but he was hitting the ball hard. And it seems to be a wildly inconsistent approach. He's drawing walks now this weekend, right? We're talking about this weekend, not overall. This weekend, he didn't get a single hit, but he had 3 walks in 3 games. I think he had a 2-walk game on Friday. Like, but no hits, no results. Like some days he hits the ball hard all over the yard. Some days he goes, 0 for 3 with a strikeout and a walk. And when he does blow up, and he has like the game he did in Cleveland where he had the home run and the hard hit double and a walk, like he had hit a really, really good game. It was at the last game in the Cleveland series. And then like the next 4 games are just like nothing. Like it seems to be a wildly inconsistent approach at the plate. And that's frustrating. I'm sure it is for him. For me, I think that screams like pitch selection issue. If he was striking out a ton, that would be different. I would say that it's maybe still a swing issue, or he just like can't read the ball out of the pitcher's hands. Like he's not whiffing a ton. He's actually a above league average in terms of whiff rate. He's around league average, just ever so slightly below league average in strikeout rate. Like he's not K'ing a boatload. I think that's a pitch selection issue. Like you have to know what pitches you can drive, and you can't just go and throw the bat on everything that's in the strike zone. It's very frustrating to watch. So that's kind of my takeaway from Spencer Torkelson's weekend. Nick Maton, it feels like he hasn't had a hit since like the Bush administration. It's been a long time. He's still working some counts. He still has good walk numbers, but that doesn't matter. Like, I'm not just going to keep saying that forever. That doesn't matter if you don't get results at some point. And he started off slow, then he got hot, and now he's been ice cold for the last, week? Maybe even a little bit more. Yeah, about a week. So needs to get back on the horse there desperately. Also needs to prove that he can hit non-fastballs, which is something that he shares a trait in that with another player on the team we'll talk about later. Let's get to some good. There was some, believe it or not, there was some good this weekend, most of it on the pitching side, but there's one bat that I did like this weekend too we'll talk about right after I tell y'all about our friends over at the Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. It's the coolest game I've played in a long time. You get the chance to be a major league GM and find out that maybe it's not all that easy. If you've had that thought, this is the game for you. It allows you to manage every strategic aspect of a franchise. You can play through seasons and lead your franchise to glory as you build a historic dynasty. Do it with the Tigers just to give yourself some happiness, man. You hire the right coaches, the right scouts, the right staff. You manage team finances. You draft players. You manage through personalities, injuries. You navigate through free agency, all the ups and downs of the season. All of this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline. play on the go when you want, where you want. And as we said at the beginning of the show, listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code LOCKEDON in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up in the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. It's the ultimate baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Shout out to the everydayers, the people that do tune in every single day. Tomorrow, we will hopefully be recapping a victory. That would be super cool if we didn't lose 5 straight right after winning 5 straight. But we'll see. Okay, only time will tell, and all we have in this world is hope. All right, so let's keep talking about this weekend, though. I did want to talk about Zach McKinstry and give him his flowers. He had a great weekend and has kind of been on a heater lately, even dating back to before the weekend. Outside of the last at bat of the Baltimore series for him, his last AB on Sunday was dreadful. It was 3 fastballs, and it was good morning, good afternoon, good night. One of them was right down the middle. Outside of that, okay, outside of a 3-pitch strikeout on 3 fastballs, he has actually looked really good lately. His OPS is almost 800 on the season. He's got like a 797 OPS. Who knows how long it'll last, if it's sustainable, whatnot. Again, only time will tell. But we will take any production we can get at the plate. Any. Okay. He's barreling up the ball a lot. He's catching a lot of barrels lately. Another dude who should probably be in the lineup at this point every single day against right-handed pitching. Not every day, period, but when there's a righty at the mound, Kerry Carpenter and Zach McKinstry should both be in the lineup. And on Sunday, he hit 5th, and you can't really complain with the logic. So shout out to Zach McKinstry. Really, again, after a slow start, I know on Friday I also said, like, at any point in the season, if he doesn't hit, he's a candidate to leave. That's still very true, but he is currently hitting, so not a candidate to leave anytime soon. Kerry Carpenter, we talked a little bit about this, a lot about this, actually. And it's been kind of surrounded by good, so it hasn't really been an issue. And I don't want to call it an issue yet. Well, I mean, I guess it is an issue. I'm not freaking out about it. There's still a much bigger fish to fry in terms of like problems with this team overall. But Kerry Carpenter, like, the scouting report is out, dog. The scouting report is out. It got around in a week. It took 1 week, and everybody found out that he can't hit non-fastballs. And I know that everybody was like, he needs to be batting 4th every single day, righty or lefty. Still is struggling against lefties. And the biggest thing, again, is he has not shown an ability to hit non-fastballs. And I don't just mean like, he has a 500 average against fastballs and it's like 200 against non-fastballs. Then I would say keep him in the lineup every day. This is a straight up inability. He has 1 total hit on non-fastballs this season. And again, we're 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in. It's April 23rd. He will at some point. He has 1 hit. He has 0. His average is 0 against breaking balls this season. He has seen 70. His average is 0. And again, not all those 70 are strikes. He's spitting on some there, right? Working counts, that's great. But a 0 batting average against breaking balls, and he has 1 hit in 41 off-speed pitches. Those are mostly changeups, are classified as off-speeders, with 0 extra base hits. The 1 hit was a single. And then his stats against fastballs, a 355 average with a 774 slug. That is prime Barry Bonds numbers. Kerry Bonds in the flesh against 4-seam fastballs. But legitimately 1 hit against non-fastball, whatever, cutters, sinkers, all classified as fastballs, not just 4-seamers. But like literally 1 hit. So watch his at-bats. Like this weekend, he wasn't that effective because he got thrown all non-fastballs, and the fastballs he was thrown were at his eyes because he chases up in the zone sometimes. So that's what happens. That's what being a major leaguer is. You get off to a hot streak, then the scouting report goes around, and then you have to adjust, and then you have to adjust, and then you have to adjust. The best hitters are always adjusting. So I'm not like saying Kerry Carpenter sucks or that I'm out on him or that he's never going to be good, but now it's time to adjust because it, you're not going to go too far if everybody in the league knows you can't hit anything that's not a fastball. Okay. And this weekend, the reason I'm bringing up now the way I am is because this was the first weekend that it was alarmingly clear. Okay. Matt Vierling, good game on Sunday, but honestly, I feel like he's been struggling at the plate pretty mightily the last couple of weeks. He just hasn't shown the ability to catch up to high velocity fastballs. Good numbers this year against like the fastballs that aren't high velo, like traditionally, like sinkers, cutters, etc. Like he's been hitting those pretty well. But a 154 batting average with 0 extra base hits against four seam fastballs. That is the straightest pitch there is in baseball. 154 batting average with no extra base hits. So need to see some adjustments again made in that regard as well. Let's talk about some good. Okay, let's talk about some good. Michael Lorenzen, 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Stuff looked great. And honestly, like I was kind of scared to say it after his first start, but his stuff looked pretty good in that start too. He just had terrible command. And yeah, like his approach in this one was pretty close to how it was post-injury last year. 2-pitch mix and which 2 pitches you get depend on if you're a righty or a lefty. Really settled in pretty nicely there. Only a high 60s, like 68 pitch count in this one. So they're still slowly kind of stretching him out into pre-injury Michael Lorenzen and what he kind of did down the stretch last year. But we'll gladly take 5 innings of shutout ball, which is what he gave us on, what was that, Friday? So very solid stuff. Jason Foley out was on the mound, gave up the game winning run on Friday, right? I'm trying to remember if that was the 8th or the 9th. They all kind of blended together because they were all losses. Pretty game winning run though was given up by Foley on Friday, and everybody was talking about the managerial decision. You know, Tyler Holton was cruising, to be honest. He looked great. We'll talk about kind of the bullpen as a whole later. And he went to the pen and brought in Foley, and then Foley gave up. Obviously Anthony Santander gave up the hit there, and then gave up the ridiculous infield single that was the walk-off. Yeah, that's right. So, as far as the decision to bring in Foley to face Anthony Santander, last year, a full season in 2022, had a 200 OPS difference between righties and lefties and a 70-point difference in batting average. The righties being significantly lower than the lefties, that is. So it made sense to go righty in that situation. If you're not going to go to Lang, then you're going to go to Foley. That's how this bullpen works as far as the hierarchy of right-handed pitching goes. You're going to go to one of those two. And they went to Foley. Last play of the game was also a really just like weak ground ball, which is what Jason Foley does for a living. He induces weak ground balls. Sometimes they just get in weird spots. But a terrible throw home by Spencer Torkelson. Not like just completely uncompetitive. Even if it was a dot, it would have been a super close play. But it wasn't. We don't even get to know if it would have been a close play because it was a complete wrong side of the body, running away, no feet set, just awful. So, like this team scored 1 run in every game this weekend. They scored 3 runs in 3 games. Like, this is not the bullpen's fault that the Tigers got swept this weekend. Far from it. Okay. Joey Wentz was really good until he wasn't, and then it ended up being a pretty poor outing. 4 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 Ks. That's a few starts in a row now where he's really filled up the strike zone, which I can appreciate. But it also seems to be a pattern so far early in his career that he has a hard time getting out of trouble. And that's a developable trait. We can develop that. We can work with that. Especially if when he's not in trouble, he's good, which so far in his entire major league career, he has shown the ability to be, even dating back to last season. But his stuff's really good. Like, he can shove if he's keeping runners off base, but seems to have a tendency to get rattled. And when 1 or 2 runners get on, then a lot of runners get in. Even the San Francisco game when he looked really good, that was a leadoff homer. There was no base runners really. So still need to make adjustments in that regard, in the sense of not getting rattled and not letting 1 base runner become 3, become 4, become bases clearing doubles, become you're out of the game after 4 innings, because we've already had a couple of those this season with him. Let's talk bullpen. And then I only got a couple of more after that, and we'll kind of just wrap the weekend up as a whole. All right. But first, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at BetterHelp. This one is hits really close to me, obviously, as something that I talk about quite often. I end every show with going to therapy is dope. And yeah, this show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we are always growing and changing. Therapy is, for me, all about the deepening of your self-awareness. It's all about learning why you react to different situations the way you do, and that is one of the biggest reasons that I continue to go to therapy and will continue to go to therapy. Just learning more about yourself. There's a really big misconception out there about what you get out of therapy, and that is, for me, one of the biggest things is continuing to learn about yourself. Even if you're happy as heck and it's sunshine and rainbows, the ability to go on that journey and continue to just learn why you react in certain situations the way you do, or why your brain thinks things in certain situations. That's can be incredibly beneficial. So I have benefited a lot from therapy. Obviously, I'm very vocal about that. Again, I end every show talking about how great I think it is. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to fit your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Finding the right fit is so unbelievably important. And they kind of have specialists. So you fill out the questionnaire, talk about why you're going to therapy and stuff like that. And they try to put you with somebody that they feel like you can benefit from. So discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnMLB and you get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. Also got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Built Bar, our longtime friends over at Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious snack, but you don't want all the sugar and calories, you need to get the best tasting protein bar out there, and that is Built. They are healthy and they taste amazing. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's what makes them amazing. Also, they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter, brownie, cookies and cream. I love the churro. It's my favorite thing ever. I'm not sure how Bill does it, but they make it taste like a candy bar while having the macros of a protein bar, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. You can also now go to your local Walmart, go to your local Sam's Club, and get specialty flavors still at built.com. That's right. Walmart, Sam's Club, 4-bar box, 13-bar box, or just go straight to the source and keep going to built.com. However you get your hands on some Built Bars, make sure you do today. All right, let's get back to talking baseball. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, Tigers get swept this weekend. I did want to talk about the bullpen as a whole. I'm hesitant to say this in a general sense because I'm sure they'll get rocked now this entire week, because I am saying this because I'm just putting this into the world, and that's simply how baseball works. But for the last week or week and a half, the bullpen, I think, has actually been really solid. And this is, the first 2 weeks of the season, I came on here and was like, what the heck? Like, this is dreadful. And they went on a pretty lengthy scoreless inning streak at one point last week. And then this weekend, they gave up 3 earned runs in 3 games, which is, not prime Mariano Rivera, bullpen-esque, but that's not bad. That's going to keep you in a lot of ball games. If every single day your bullpen is only fixing to give up 0 or 1 runs, like they gave up 2 on Friday, they gave up none on Saturday, they gave up 1 on Sunday. That's not a bad day at the office, especially when it's paired with 2 amazing starts. Shutout from your starter in 2 of the 3 games this weekend, and you got swept. Did you hear what I just said? That's mind-boggling. And we'll talk about the offense because that's 100% the reason why this weekend went the way it did. But you got shutout ball from 2 of your 3 starters, and your bullpen was solid, and you got swept. Unbelievable stuff. So I just like when talking about the good, I that's going to win you a lot of ball games. That bullpen performance. Lang has a sub 2 ERA on the season now. Foley, we just talked about in the previous segment. I still like him a lot in high leverage situations, especially for like you want to get a ground ball right now situations. And yeah, like and the supporting cast of those two, which are the clear top two in the pen, while far from perfect, and I still have a ton of questions about how managing situations throughout the year involving the pen. Um, they were able to scratch and claw their way to a fine weekend, and dating back to the last like week or 9 games have been solid for a little bit now. Will Vest again struggled in the minors, came up, had a scoreless outing in this one. Like I said, still a lot of questions. We're not even in May yet. We have a boatload of baseball left. They could very easily crash and burn and go downhill like they did the first week or so of the season. But if you're talking storylines for this weekend, I think the bullpen could have been a lot worse. Okay, now let's talk Jake Rogers because um, I have sung the praises of Jake Rogers a boatload behind the plate this year. And as a whole, it's not like he was terrible behind the plate this weekend. I still thought he called a great game on Sunday, really good pitch framer, all that. But we do need to talk about the way in which we lost on Sunday. There's been a lot of talk in the catcher community, which I am a nerd and very much in tune with, as I was a catcher my entire life. And there's been a lot of debate surrounding the one knee stance in the catcher community because a lot of analytical people think that there's a lot of stats and numbers that show that the one knee stance can get you a lot of called strikes, can be very good for pitch framing, very good for receiving in general. And Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic actually wrote a great article about a week ago about the Tigers specifically and AJ Hinch's transition into kind of allowing his catchers be one leg stance catchers. And again, like a lot of low strikes kind of go in your favor, the numbers say, when you're in that one leg stance. That's great and all. And that's awesome. Any ability you can find, any angle you can find to give yourself an advantage, I am pro. This team needs all the help they can get as long as it's within the rules. Don't bang trash cans. Okay. That being said, with the winning run on third base in extra innings, when you're calling a low and away breaking ball, block the pitch. That's just really costly. To lose that game on Sunday was brutal. Now, again, we can't score runs, so it was like somewhat inevitable, but that cannot happen. You can still get into blocking position from one knee, right? That's still very possible. Or you just realize, hey, a pass ball loses me this baseball game in which we are in extra innings of, and I'm calling a breaking ball low and away. So maybe I'm just not going to one knee this one. There was 0 attempts to block the ball, one knee or not. 0. He just lunged with the mitt. He missed it. It hit off his kneecap, bounced away, game over, Tigers lose. Again, he called a great game, and I have sung the praises of Rogers behind the plate all season, and it's not like it was a terrible performance back there, and it was highlighted by that. It was one mistake, just an incredibly costly one that is taught at the lowest levels of baseball that just simply cannot happen, and it drives me nuts. Even if it was like in the 6th inning of a blowout, nonetheless, in a tie ball game and extras to lose it. Okay, so that just can't happen. But again, one mistake in a season with a lot of good behind the plate there from Rogers. Riley Green, we talked about last year. Well, last year in spring, this year, we've talked about it pretty much his entire major league tenure. His struggles of lifting the ball after this weekend, his ground ball rate is actually higher than it was last year now on the season. He currently has the 8th highest ground ball rate in the sport at the time of this recording. His spray chart, all of his singles are like ground balls through the infield to the right side, and all of his extra base hits are to the opposite way. He's also in the 4th percentile for K rate. He is striking out at 35.5 almost percent clip. Bottom 4% in baseball, and striking out is never a great thing. He also doesn't have a double yet this season. Did you know that? I didn't know that. He doesn't have a double yet. It's almost, well, I was going to say it's almost May. We're getting a little out of ourselves. We've got a week till May. It's late April. We've been playing for 3 weeks now. He doesn't have a double yet. He has 2 homers and 2 triples. No slugging percentage because he can't pull the ball in the air. He hits the ball hard. His hard hit rate's solid. His barrel rate's solid. He finds barrels. He's athletic. In the minors, he wasn't a ground ball machine to the pull side. He could pull the ball. It's clearly a swing issue that he has to iron out, but it just keeps on going. No adjustments made yet, or at least the adjustments he has made. I shouldn't say that. The adjustments he has made clearly have not fixed the issue. I should put it that way. Need to lift the ball to the pull side for the love of everything. And Juan Rodriguez. It's funny because after his last start, I said, I can't keep saying each start is the best he's had as a Tiger. And I feel like I've done that in his last 3 outings. But because I was like, it's going to be hard to top this last one, the 8-inning 10K shutout performance that he had in his last time out. And so I was like, I think I'll be good for a little while. And then in this one, he took a perfect game through 6 innings. He was incredible. The cutter has never looked better than it has his last few outings. And because of how unbelievable his stuff is at missing barrels, when his command is on, you get like his last 3 starts. You just get a run like this. And his command is clearly on. He is dotting, painting, Picasso, all just absolutely beautiful. 1 total run given up in his last 3 outings, 1 total walk allowed in his last 3 outings. He's been on a tear. And if he keeps it up, he can get rewarded by getting traded to a playoff team, because assuming the Tigers don't go on a magical playoff run in July, that's likely what's going to happen because he has an opt-out after this season. Okay, we'll keep much more in touch with that story as we get closer and closer to the deadline in the summer. For now, we're just going to take our good starts and go home. Let's end the show with talking about the offense, because it was absolutely dreadful. That's the reason you're all here, is to hear me complain about the offense, because that was comfortably the biggest storyline of the season. But I have to keep you watching, so we save the biggest storylines for last. That's called showbiz, baby. But just awful. Just awful. Just awful. I don't. There you go. That's the show. Thanks for being locked up. And it's the frustrating thing is, last year it was just pitiful because no one could hit the baseball. Genuinely. This year, they are getting base runners, not, like a Dodgers amount of base runners, but they have runners on base. This is just so far this season, it has been a mind-boggling performance when it comes to the inability to score runners on base. You had 13 left on base on Sunday, 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and you went 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position on Friday, and you had 5 left on base on Saturday. Including on Saturday, bases loaded, 1 out, didn't score in the first inning. And it's frustrating because going into the weekend, I said the games in this series, this was a winnable series, nonetheless winnable games mixed in this series. And they lost by 1 run in 2 of them, including an extra innings game. That is winnable. 1-run games are winnable. They all are. That's why they're 1-run games. So it's going to be, we got a long ways to go. Again, it's late April, but your pitching has been really solid lately, and you have rewarded them with nothing. You're on a 4-game losing streak right after a 5-game win streak. You need someone to show signs of either consistent power or, more than anything, even more so than consistent power, I don't care if they're all singles, as long as you're hitting the ball and getting hits with runners in scoring position. We've seen teams do that. But you have to. You have to. The number of base runners you've been putting on, again, isn't horrific, but your inability to hit anyone in has been. So, if you're not going to have anyone on this team be a league-wide, known power threat, which it doesn't look like you're going to, then you have to have timely hitting. It's as simple as that. You're not going to survive the summer if you don't have one of those two things, much more the timely hitting one than anything else, because I don't think you're going to get the like 25 to 30 home run threat on this team. And this weekend, to bring it back to this series specifically, you were absolutely awful in this department, and you have been for pretty much the entire season. So we'll end the show with a stat, okay? This team has gone on a 4-game losing streak right after a 5-game winning streak, but they've had a chance to win pretty much every single game dating back to the last game before the 5-game winning streak, which was a loss to Toronto, okay? So that's a 10-game sample size I'm about to give you. 4-game losing streak, 5-game winning streak, 1-game loss. The last 10 games the Tigers have played. Nice round number. They have played 8 either 1-run games / games that have gone into extra innings. 8 of the 10 have either been 1-run or have gone into extras. That's only 2 that were not, for all you math whizzes out there. The 2 that weren't was a 3-1 win over the Blue Jays and the 5-1 loss on Saturday. 8 of your last 10. So, and if you expand that to just 2-run games, period, that's obviously 9 of your last 10, just straight up. Extra innings or not. 9 of your last 10 within 2 runs. But 8 of your last 10, you either took into extras or were a 1-run game, win or loss. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating because you're also 5-5 in your last 10. You are exactly 500 in your last 10 games. So the team has shown the ability to play close against much better teams, which all of the teams they've played in the last 10 objectively are much better teams. But you also have shown the inability to score runs in close games. A lot of those are low run totals. Dating back to the Baltimore, dating back to the Cleveland series. A lot of 1-0 victories, 2-1 victories, 3-2 victories. If there was any semblance of clutch hitting on this baseball team, you'd be looking at a team that could just be on an absolute tear over their last 10. Pitching is keeping them in games and leaving it up to the offense to be the nail in the coffin and actually go win games. And we're 5-5 in our last 10. So is that good news that they're playing a lot of close games against much better teams? Or is it bad news that the offense just hasn't been good and they should be winning a lot more given what their pitching has given them? We say this all the time. The truth often lies probably somewhere in the middle, right? Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. We will be back tomorrow recapping, hopefully, a victory. We go to Milwaukee for a 3-game set. They have a very good pitching staff. I think we're avoiding their 2 aces. We do have to face Freddie Peralta, who's nasty. But I think we are avoiding Burns and Woodruff. Now, like, Lauer's had a good year and a half-ish. And like I said, Freddie Peralta is a monster in his own right. So not going to be a cakewalk. Really good pitching staff, good bullpen, one of the best closers in baseball, going up against a struggling offense that can't hit with runners in scoring position. So, and the Brewers offense isn't exactly like a juggernaut. They're off to a really good start. That's great. But I guess what I'm saying is this could be a lot more of the same for the foreseeable future. And then you get Baltimore again for 4 games after you finish Milwaukee. Wasn't that fun? Love this April schedule. Okay, this is a 40-minute episode. My fault, everybody. Got a lot of thoughts over the weekend, though. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.